Hi everyone, this next makeup study is inspired by Dasha Taivas. I love how striking and edgy the lines are on the eyes and lips, so I'm going to show you how I studied and recreated this stunning editorial makeup look. First, I'm going to start by lightening the brows by using Glisten Cosmetics Spectra Brow in the shade Sand. This is going to mute the colour of my brows so that the eyes stand out more. I brush the product through in layers so that I can coat each hair evenly. As you can see, having lighter brows makes a huge difference to the framing of the eyes and overall look. Moving on to the eyes, I'm going to use some Scotch tape. The width of the tape is a bit too wide, so I trim it down roughly to the width of my irises. I carefully place it close to my lash line and pressing vertically up all the way to my brow. Now that the eyes are prepped, we're going to start by using a black cream eyeshadow base. This one I'm using is NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Black Bean. I'm roughly placing the product on either side of the tape, but staying close to the lash line and lid. Using a medium brush, I'm going to lightly tap out the cream eyeshadow. This helps the product stay in place whilst gently feathering out the edges to create a gradient effect. I use a mixture of tapping and small circular motions to blend the edges out further into the brow bone. Next, using a matte black eyeshadow, I'm going to gently stamp the pigment into the eyeshadow base. This helps minimize eyeshadow fallout and intensify the color in the areas you press into. Once most of the pigment is pressed in, I use the remaining pigment on the brush to blend upwards towards the brow bone using smaller stamping motions. I repeat this until I reach the desired shape. It's really important you take your time with this step, as black eyeshadow can be really messy and hard to control, so going slow and gentle helps a lot. Once I'm happy with the black eye shape, we'll create the grey gradient to the brow bone. To do this, I'm going to use a matte white eyeshadow. This is because the white will turn the black edges grey as we blend this out. First, I gently tap the pigment on the brow bone and around the edges of the eye, creating a C shape. I go back in with the same brush I used for the black eyeshadow to blur the white pigment together. I alternate these two brushes, buffing and blending in circular motions until I'm happy with the gradient effect. I do the same for the inner corner and the other eye. And now for the reveal, I take the top edge of the tape and slowly peel down, and you're left with this gorgeous sharp edge line in the middle. It's such an easy and stunning way to create such a striking look. For the bottom part of the eye, I'm using a creamy waterproof eyeliner. I like the way the tip is slanted so that you can get more control creating smooth lines and curves. I'm only lining the inner and outer corner of the eye, matching the lines above so that the gap looks continuous all the way down the eyes. I roughly create a lower wing extending from my lower lash line. Once I'm happy with the length, I use a thin brush to soften the edges and lines. To finish the eye look, I curl and apply mascara to the top and bottom lashes generously. Using the same black eyeliner, I drew out a basic lip line around my lips. You can use a black lip liner for this part, but a black eyeliner also works well. Unfortunately, I was missing some footage for the next part, but essentially I drew lines going inward to the lips. Then from each line perpendicular to the outer lip line, I drew curves at the bottom to smooth the shape and create petals around the lips. I go back in with a small pointed brush to blend out the harsh lines and refine the shape further. To top off the lips, I seal it with a clear gloss. This one I'm using is by Milk Makeup's Odyssey Lip Oil Gloss in the shade Journey. To avoid ruining the liner work underneath, lightly glide the gloss onto the lips rather than pressing the applicator to the lip. And that's the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and studying this makeup look with me. If there are any other makeup looks you'd like me to break down and study, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.